Are you trying to get your shift together?
Welcome to the Shift Sisters podcast, where real conversations inspire real transformations. We're not experts, but we're experiencers. I'm Sandra.
And I'm Jennifer Richter.
We're your Shift Sisters.
Whether you're shifting like a sloth or it looks like you're having an exorcism, this is your space to breathe, reflect, and remember. We're here to talk shift with you. Welcome back, Shifties. I'm your host, Jennifer Richter, and with me is my co-host and poetic soul sister, Sandra Sa.
Hey.
Today, we're diving into our Protect Your Peace series, where we get real about energy, boundaries, and emotional well-being. So today, we're going to talk about the inner economy, the emotional budget that no one taught us how to track. Just like my parents didn't teach me how to do it with finances either. So, all in the same boat. Every conversation, every worry, every boundary you don't set, it all has a cost. And if your soul's been throwing insufficient fun alerts, then this episode's for you. I want you to ask yourself, if your emotions were money, would you be rich in peace or bankrupt from burnout?
I like that.
Right?
Yes.
I know I've been bankrupt for a long time. I just have to say, don't look at my emotional funds.
Yes.
But, at the end of this series, we'll be joined by our grounded guys to hear what men silently carry. So stay tuned for that. And as we go through this, we're going to become the Dave Ramsey of emotional currency.
Love it. I'm ready to go, girl.
Let's do it, girl.
Yes.
Sandra, you were telling me a little bit about your shift forecast, your, emotional vibe today. Tell me a little bit more about it so that everybody else can hear too.
I'm like super distracted and just have, I don't know, like an issue with focus today. I'm just feeling a little floaty. And if a squirrel were to run by my window, I would be all up in it. So I'm just feeling a little bit just disconnected, and I need to feel a little more grounded. Yeah, that's where I am today, and I think that's a little stormy is what it's called on our shift forecast. And but it's also, I don't feel super emotional. I don't feel like I'm down in the dumps. So it's just a bit of distraction and just needing to get focused and grounded a bit.
Okay. Well, like we talked about earlier, right? For distraction, if you want to use some oils, which let me see your little oil kit. I know you have it there.
Yes, I
You
have
got
my
a
oil.
mini one.
Let me open it up. Oops, sorry, I just dropped some stuff.
Look
So
at your
yes,
minis.
all of the oils. I'm sorry about my video,
That's
but yes,
okay.
all of the oils here. So where am I starting again?
Okay, so let's do balance first,
Okay.
which will give you that grounding because the balance is made with spruce, hoe wood, frankincense, blue tansy, blue chamomile, and osmanthus. So those are all like very good and grounding oils. And it smells like a Christmas tree.
It really
So
does.
that's your grounding. You'll do your rosemary, which we all know what that smells like, is for knowledge and transition and memory.
Mhm.
And then lemon, which helps with focus. It's bright and zesty. So we all know we want bright and zesty attitude. So that helps with focus.
I love it.
So that's what I'm going to have you put on today. When you take a deep breath, doesn't it like feel like it changes so many things when you're doing it with the oils?
I need to just close my eyes and do it again and just get that cleansing breath. No, it
Mm-hmm.
does. Like I feel like just like a little natural hit, you know? I just got
I
a
was going to
little.
say we all look like a bunch of oil crackheads over here going, oh, what are
Yes.
you doing?
No. Sniffing my oil.
Yeah, sniffing the oils, people. What's that Saturday Night Live one where the girl was like doing her armpit? Like we're doing
Yes.
that with our
Oh, I love it. I love it. And I feel like I want to put it on my body too.
good.
Just
Do it. Do it. Well, I'm glad you have some oils for support. And I feel like we have taken our deep breaths, right, with our oil. And I know you're drinking a papaya smoothie this morning. And I
Mhm.
just have simple, basic chamomile tea because when protecting my peace, I need to have calm additives to my life, because if I'm going to add espresso, I don't think I'm going to be very calm in protecting my peace, because I'm going to be wanting to rip someone's head off. So that's what I'm doing today.
Good. You're setting the mood, and I can appreciate that.
Oh, good. Well, let's talk about defining the inner economy. I don't know if you've ever explored this yourself as this perspective, but let's break it down a little bit. And the inner economy is how you manage your emotional currency, your energy, your time, attention, and your feelings. So, just like money, there are resources, but they're finite. Every thought, conversation, or worry has a cost, like we talked about. And, you know, we're not a walking ATM, but essentially we're acting like it, and everybody's taking a withdrawal, and we need to stop giving out the PIN number.
Yes,
You don't
girl.
get the
Preach.
code.
Preach.
Emotional currency, it's one of those things that, like, I don't want to say you can't get it back, but it's not as easily replenishable, if that makes sense, if you're giving it all out.
Mhm.
So we want to think about these emotional currency things when we talk about your time. How long do you dwell on something? Okay. Not about how much time are you spending with somebody, it's how long do you dwell on something. Attention. What do you give your mental space to? Are you like just spinning out on something and replaying it and repeating it, but not really like analyzing it or looking for solutions?
Right. Right.
Compassion. How much empathy do you extend? Are you so compassionate and you're extending so much empathy that you're almost neglecting your personal task, your personal needs, all of these things, to where you don't even have anything left to give to yourself? And, resentment or rumination, right? That's an emotional debt right there. And I never even heard the word rumination until we had goats.
Did they tell you about rumination?
Did you? Well, apparently that is a thing that they do, right? It's called, they ruminate, which is the way they are processing their food and all of these things. And so, of course, as soon as we learn that, Adam is using the word 25 million times. He's like, I need to stop ruminating on that. And then, of course, I'm like, geez, are we overusing some vocabulary here? But I understand what it means now,
Right.
right? Is to be in that loop. So, investing in toxic relationships or endless people pleasing, that's a long term deficit. But spending time on like aligned friendships, passions, or healing, that's emotional wealth building, which is something that you and I talk about a lot, Sandra. How can we, do these things? But we look at it from the perspective of just like healing ourselves. We don't often look at it through the lens of emotional wealth building. Just because you can afford to spend your energy doesn't mean you should, right, Jennifer? Just because you have $3 in your pocket does not mean you need to go to the thrift store and find something you didn't need.
Mhm.
Same thing. So, what's draining your account without giving anything back? So, let's learn to spot some of these emotional spending habits, because our awareness is our emotional accounting software. So for all you freaking the sheets, and what I mean is the spreadsheets, those spreadsheet nerds,
I
right?
was going,
If
"Whoa, it
you're
took a
freaking the
turn."
spreadsheets, then this is going to be speaking your language, your accounting software. Sandra does and teaches all of us about journaling, right? We had our shift whisper, Emma Butler, here, that talked about therapy and mindfulness practices. And all of those are like auditing your books, right? Auditing your bank account, balancing your checkbook, all of those things, whatever era speaks to you. Some days I feel like an emotional shopping spree, right? But zero returns. So let's look at a common expenses that we're going through. Like overthinking is
Mhm.
like paying interest.
Mhm.
Drama or draining conversations are unnecessary purchases, right? I did not need to go to the thrift store. I did not need that extra scrunchie when I have 25 at home. Same thing. People pleasing is an overdraft. And guilt or resentment, all in that overdraft department. There are hidden fees like too much social media.
Mm.
That's like your currency is just leaking out. You're losing money and you don't even realize it. So, signs you're overspending include exhaustion after social events, big time for me, resentment buildup. I have some of those that are silent, and lack of focus or mood swings, right? And so, like, you're having a hard time this morning, you're talking about being distracted, and that could fall into that lack of focus, right? Because maybe there's something that's not feeding your energy
Mhm.
today behind the scenes that no one else is seeing. And that's what's causing that lack of focus. So, which of these feel familiar to you?
So before I share what feels familiar, while you're sharing all of this, which is, I'm just so excited about this topic because, gosh, if I were to take audit, if I was the IRS of my own world, I say to
Mhm.
myself, my goodness, I can be a millionaire. And I'm just, with my energy and
Yeah.
emotion, all of that. But the one thing that I'm struggling with in hearing this description is I am compartmentalizing emotions and energy, right?
Okay.
So I'm not putting them together. So for me, there are certain people or topics in my life that require a lot of my emotional currency. And there are things in my life that require a lot of my energy.
Mm,
So, creative energy, problem solving energy, things like that, right? So, when it comes to like the energy piece, it doesn't feel as emotional as obviously like the emotional pieces of it. So, when I think of
mhm.
my husband, my family, the people that I really love and care for, I'm overdrafting, I'm giving, I'm doing all of these things. And then when I think about my energy towards professional goals and other things that I'm working on, it's not that I feel emotionally drained, but I feel, just the amount of ATP I have is only a certain amount that I can give, right? So
Mhm.
so I keep when as you're sharing this topic, I keep compartmentalizing it to the two.
See, for me, it's one of the same
Yeah.
because I have an emotion, even if it's annoyance or if it's
Mhm.
joy or hope or elated or whatever. I have an emotion that is tied to every energy because it's also what fuels it, right? So if I am aloof and just distant from whatever the situation is, which is an emotion, then I'm not going to give a whole lot of energy
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. And I think what I've been doing in my recent years is that in my past, would give my emotional energy to things that didn't need it. So
Mhm.
if, a coworker was upset at me or if my boss was disappointed, I would get emotional about not, performing or whatever it is, right? And stick with that over and over and over. Now, I'm really working on separating that because when you work with people, there's a lot of energy and there's a lot of triggers that can come up, right? And you know how you'll see it on social media where it's like, your work is not your family. Remember that. And, they'll replace you after a week or all
Okay.
of those things. So I agree with you. I think there are, there's emotional responses to things. I get that piece. And I feel like I am, I'm approaching this. I'm going to continue to go on with that kind of like duality of like emotions
Yeah.
and energy because I just feel like even, I have an active social life and I have lots of friends and things. And now I'm also just being very mindful of where my energy is, right? Of like, is this something that I have the physical energy for and then
Mhm.
also the social energy for, because
Okay, so then you're saying there's an emotional energy, a social energy, and a physical energy?
break down.
Maybe?
Yeah, I feel that because I think I could be tired, like
Mhm.
physically tired, but knowing that I'm gonna see some really fun people and to have an exciting night can energize me. And that adds to my currency, right? Even though, and even today, like I had low sleepy energy, but getting on this podcast is kind of, it's
Jazzing you up.
revitalizing. Yeah, it's jazzing
Okay.
me up. And I'm not in that space anymore. And I was able to kind of pull myself out of that space. So, not to complicate things, but I feel like
No, but I'm so interested to hear you and explore your different perspective of the different compartments because, it will help me to explore with mine being all mixed like a dang smoothie. You can't see all the individual ingredients. Maybe that's something I need to really think about and see, right? If there's something that could be a little bit more separated. So I love your perspective and I want to hear more about it too, so that I can kind of just think about it and see how it fits into my life.
yeah, and I know that I am also like on a health journey and I'm not where I am optimally. I know that I'm also in this like hormonal time of my life and perimenopause and all of that.
Hmm.
So I also have learned, and I hope I'm not going too ahead, but to conserve some of that. I can't do things the way I used to do them, right? Because I have to honor my feeling of what I'm feeling. So
Hmm.
on a day like today, where I could have spent the day in bed pushing myself and being on this call, I feel great now. I feel like, gosh, I'm so glad I didn't rot in bed all day. I'm so glad that I'm here and I feel like I can, and maybe it's the oils and talking to you and all the good things, but I think it's interesting that I can make a quick emotional energy buck. I made a quick buck
Mm.
in doing these things to help support me get to where I am right now in
What
this
would you
conversation.
say though helped you to get over the hump, so to speak, right? Because a lot of people would say, you know what? I'm just not feeling it today. I'm going to cancel all my plans. I'm going to lay in bed if that's how they felt. And you'll also have the extreme of people that push themselves to push through everything, and they might be masking it and not genuinely getting revitalized and excited, but they're just pushing themselves through it as a to-do list task type thing. So you are in the middle where you're saying, you know what, I had this self talk and I went from this to this, but embracing the good. How did that
Yeah.
transition transpire?
So specifically, I think some people. I used to be a wallower, right? So when I was sad, I would lock myself in my apartment and I would stay in my bed for weekends and cry and wallow and all of that. But it never made me like it never took away the sadness or whatever it is that I was dealing with, right? So fundamentally, I don't want to be rotting in bed. Like in my spirit, in my core of my being, it's so sad to me to just lay in bed and just, you feel like I almost feel sick, even
Mm.
though I'm not physically sick, right?
It's like you're almost making yourself physically sick by doing it. Yeah, because the body
Exactly.
speaks to the mind.
Absolutely. A couple of things is I am a person, integrity is important to me. So if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. So that drives me. And I have to say, you've helped me through this because you have been so gracious of, hey, girl, if you're not feeling anything today, it is whatever you feel. And having that permission to have a low energy day with someone is so precious because I think people tend to feel guilty. I don't want to let that person down. I'm going to push through it. I don't know how many times I've thought about that. But to know that the person on the other side is like, I got you, and, are showing that love and that, I think motivated me to be like, well, if I can't make it, I could always tell Jen I can't, and she's going to be okay with that. And that gave me also a little rocket boost, right? So I said, great. And so giving yourself that out as well, I think is for me something, it's a tactic that I use that I know that I can, and my husband's so good at it too. And he's always like, if we get there in 5 minutes you want to go, we can go. But if I'm with someone that doesn't have that, then I feel the pressure, the stress, and I'm just releasing more of that energy. So
I think you and I discovered that about each other on one of our earlier couple dates.
yes.
Sandra and I and our husbands went to dinner at this place that everybody local was talking about how amazing it was. And we have some really high standards for food. And we get there to this ranky dank place with
Yes.
like a handwritten note taped to the door. And, you know, you can just look at the menu and you can tell the type of ingredients they use and the lack of creativity. And I'm like, if I'm going out to eat, I want it to be something that is better than what I can make at home. I want to be treated. I want to be catered to, and I'm sitting here silent. We don't know each other like that yet. And I'm silently going, oh God, I just want to leave. Let's just get the fun drink and leave because they have a good drink. Nothing else they have here looks good. I don't want to waste my money. I don't want to waste my time. I don't want to waste this experience because it's going to overshadow everything. And I just have to be vulnerable. I just have to be honest. It's just who I am. I can't be anything else. And I said, do you care if we get out of here and go find another place?
And that's when I knew I loved you.
I'm like, this place looks like shit, but their drinks are great.
Yes, yes. Oh, I remember that fondly, and that just spoke to me too because said to myself, there is a safe space for that, and it's not that I'm trying to be pretentious or difficult or challenging or anything. I just want to make sure that all my experiences are uplifting as best as I can make them, and
Yep.
whatever's in my control,
Yep.
right? So, yes, girl, I remember that was great.
I love it. Thank you so much for giving your perspective. All the things that you talked about having permission and being vulnerable and things like that, we're definitely going to dive deeper into because that's exactly the things that we're hoping that we can practice more of and teach our shifties to incorporate into their life.
Yes.
But currently, do you feel like there's a particular area of your life where you're essentially swiping your
Mm.
emotional debit card a little too often? Like friendship, social media, in like some people it might be alcohol. I know for me it used to be alcohol, but I could explain that. But where are you spending or swiping your emotional debit card a lot these days?
So, what I consume, and that means so social media, food, the things that I'm consuming, I think I need a financial planner to help me with this, right? Because
Audit.
an audit, yes. Let's talk about food, right? So I have protein deficiencies and I have this interesting like up and down like blood pressure thing, which it's not consistent and I've never had an issue with it. And then there's also the fact that I love going out and enjoying food, right? So I think I'm trying to strike a balance of enjoyment of life and hanging out with friends and all of that with some of the needs that I'm having with this changing body and changing hormones and all of those different things. So I think that I need an overhaul in that department to really figure out how, because I mean, your hormones are everything. And if you are driven by emotions that are not true emotions, but just misfirings or a lack of emotions, then you're going to not make the best decisions, or you're going to be in a spot where you overindulge, right? And of course, what are the things you want? Sugar, or you want things that I'm not really a huge alcohol drinker, but you just want to have that pleasure.
Mhm.
So for sure, that is something that needs some attention. And I feel like I am overextending, my debit card for there. And the other piece is just when it comes to things like social media, I think we are not programmed to have so much input. And a lot of it is negative and a lot of it is, controversial and things like that. And it's just these
Mhm.
little snippets, right? So your brain is getting a fire, 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 fire of these like
And
5 second.
you're dropping energy
Yes.
like a quarter in the bucket at Christmas time in front of the grocery store. You're dropping change in the bucket of each one that you see, right?
Right. So you're like, oh my God, I got to drink more water. No, I need electrolytes. No, the water is terrible. I need to make sure that I'm drinking my B12 or whatever it is. So you spiral into the space of I need to do all of these things, or I'm not doing enough, or whatever the feeling is. And then it just becomes this, you're exhausted. You're exhausted. So it drains, it drains, it drains. So I think those are the places that I need to really count every emotional dollar and see where it's going. And man, back in the day, my mother used to have an envelope system where she would save money, right? So this
Mhm.
was rent and this was groceries
Yes,
and this was
yes.
whatever. And, I'm wondering, can I utilize something like that,
The
as
Dave
a
Ramsey
form?
system.
Yes.
That's what your mom's been doing. That's why I said you'll be the Dave Ramsey of emotional currency after this.
So how about you, Jen? Are you in any spot that you feel like,
Well, what you just said, I think is where I'm currently at, but it's not as extreme as it has been. Like with the social media thing, like, okay, I need to try this exercise and add this and add that and blah, blah, blah. And I'm dropping, emotional dollars in all of these buckets. But beforehand, which is a phase of multiple decades that I'm actually coming out of, and I am about from a year out of it, and it still feels fresh, but it's so invigorating and empowering. But I used to get heavy, heavy overspending in social events. And for me, growing up, that was my job. I was the entertainer for my mom, right? I entertained everybody in the room because I'm the baby. I'm the cute one. Oh, look at Jenny's hair. Oh, look at this. Oh, look what she can do. Look at this weird thing she does with her face. She can make all these funky things with her face. Like, it didn't matter if I was doing a backflip or picking my nose. Look what Jenny's doing. She's so entertaining, which led me to, I guess, build this confidence of, okay, I need to entertain people. And then I went into the restaurant industry, and it's service, right? It's entertaining them, it's catering to them, it's all of those things. And I absolutely loved it during that time. Also, I had energy in the 20s. No, no, I still have energy now. It's just different. I'm like, in my 20s, it's a different level of energy, but it's like having a blank check almost. But I did get exhausted. And then when I would go home where my family needed me, then I was drained. I
mm,
had nothing to give to them. And I'm like, let me recharge. Some people call it extra outgoing introverts. I think that's what it's called, where when I have to be on, I'm on. I can do it. But there's a lot of silent recharge time in the back end. And people don't see that. And people don't know that that's what I've been doing all these years, and that my family unfortunately has missed out on a lot because of me not budgeting and balancing my emotional currency properly. And so then I would get mentally checked out, and I'm scrolling on social media or doing anything to just distract myself that is not also charging me back up. So I'm still feeling drained. And then when these social events would come along, I would drink to get through them because it technically was almost like a trigger for me. And I had no tools. No one had taught me coping mechanisms. No one had taught me how to balance my emotional currency. And despite everything I knew that my body was telling me, I'm highly allergic to alcohol in so
mm,
many ways. And I would drink anyways. And I would tell myself I'm not having an allergic reaction, or I'll be fine this time or whatever. And I could go into the long, dramatic details of the horrific things that would happen, even if I had one drink.
yeah,
But I would nearly die every single time. And what I say, that's not binge drinking. That could be from like one drink to four drinks. But I would be dead for 1 to 2 days after. I would have to get special IVs, all of this stuff. And how long do you have to do that in your life and miss out on all of these days of your family and your children and your husband watching you sit there in such a deficit before you say, what the fuck am I doing with myself?
yes.
How am I spending my energy, and why am I doing this? Because it's not just to me. I'm doing it to my children. I'm doing it to my husband. And all I have is right now. Is this what I want to do? So I had a huge come to Jesus moment, I guess you would call it, or awakening or a what the WTF, I don't know. It was July 27th last year, and I love bubbly drinks. You know, I could drink Perrier till it's coming out my ears. So anything bubbly, I just drink a lot of. I don't really even pay attention to what I'm drinking. And we had champagne. It was graduation. I had champagne. Well, I just kept drinking champagne because also I'm hosting an event. I'm
Mhm.
uncomfortable. I'm a little nervous. So I'm drinking this. And I cannot begin to tell you how angry I was at myself. That did I do anything ridiculous and embarrassing? No, it's not about that. But did I show up with my emotion and intention and focus and heart and energy like I wanted to?
Mhm.
I didn't. And I was incredibly disappointed with myself. And that day I said, you know what? That's it. If I would not accept it from anybody else, why am I accepting it for myself?
Wow.
And so I've never drank since.
Amazing. Yes. And it's so, and I've seen that change in you where when we had first met, you were hosting everything and I remember you when you were shifting out of that. And I remember one day you told me, you said, that's it, like I'm not doing this anymore. And I'm like, amen, hallelujah, because it's just such a drain. And then the drinking piece, it just adds to that.
And it's all my doing. No
Yes.
one else put that
Yes.
pressure on me. Well, maybe my mother, right, stemmed from childhood, but how long can you blame someone else?
Right.
But like, no one else put that pressure on me. No one else told me I had to celebrate in this manner. No one else told me, but I also didn't think about seeking out other supporting resources, other coping mechanisms. I didn't know what I didn't know. And so hopefully, if any shifties are listening and they find themselves with these peculiar habits of dealing with things that maybe just do not feel right for them, and they say, there's got to be a better way to do this, or this doesn't make me feel 100% comfortable with myself. Seek out alternative resources for coping with that situation. Either send us a message on the website and we'll see what we can come up with, or Google it. Use Chatty Cathy is what I call. Is it GTP, GPT, whatever? My kids hate when I try to say it because I never say it right. It's just Chatty Cathy. Ask her and see what you can get. Sandra, you know just as well as I do, we talk about this all the time. Not all people are energy neutral. Some are emotional overdrafters who drain you, while others are emotional investors who add value, right? The key is noticing who's who and choosing wisely.
Yes.
Who in your life, well, maybe I shouldn't ask who, 'cause we don't want to add anybody, but can you think of people in your life that are emotional investors, right? Think about who comes to mind, and then who feels like an emotional overdrafter.
Yes.
Are they adding to your piece or pulling from it? Do you want to share anything on that?
Sure. So I'm at a place where when I think about the overdrafters, even looking at their names
Mm.
or even this question and they pop into my head, I'm like, whew, gosh, that's heavy. Right. And block and bless, just get them. I just can't. I really, really can't. And it's interesting. Anyone that makes me work harder is a drainer. So if I have to second guess what you're saying, if I have to, try to match up your words and your actions, all of those things, if you're making me work just to understand who you are, then that for me is my rule of thumb of you're an overdrafter. And I have been notorious for giving people the benefit of the doubt. And I have been notorious of saying she just had a bad day or an off day or whatever the case may be. And I tell you, my husband was the one that was like,
Mhm.
girl, you need to open up your eyes because this person is consistent with their actions and words, and you're just being nice.
Mm-hmm.
And he has taught me so much on listening to that immediate emotional response to people. So yes, there is that, and it is a work in progress because I join different groups and I meet different people and I try to put myself out there. I work from home, so I don't have, coworkers and the commute and all of that to engage with lots of folks. I realize that people will introduce themselves or they're drawn to me for whatever reason, and I just have to be more discerning because my emotional energy is valuable. Now, with depositors, girl, people say if you have that one person in your life that you can be yourself with and just feel free. And I am so blessed to have people in my life who do that for me,
Mm-hmm.
that I know can just, it's like, going to a charging station and it's like, woo. And
Mm-hmm.
as I said, today, knowing that we were going to have our podcast and our chat, I was able to get out of bed as much as I wanted to just stay in and just kind of lounge about. And I'm like, no, this is a very this is always fulfilling, our time together, regardless if it's a podcast or just a chat that we have. So those are so important for me in my life. And no matter where you are in the country or in the world, like, you are close to my heart. And that's the community I'm hoping to continue to expand
Yep.
upon, build on.
Yep. You're in, and what is it, like your emotional stocks?
Yeah. Yes.
You're building your stock portfolio of the investors.
The
Totally.
dividends that are coming out of all that. Yes.
Well, I have designed a 7-day emotional tracking system that everybody can download because I really had to take audit.
Yes.
Because, at first you can kind of think, and yes, when you think who's your debit, withdrawers and who's the ones that are investing, names and faces pop up very quickly. But what do you do with them, right? Like, how are you managing all that? And so for me, I put together this tracker because I was like, I need to see, just like you have to analyze your spreadsheet of finances and where you're spending and what's coming out regularly, what's a foundational expense, what's a variable, all of these things will help you to see what you can adjust, what you can eliminate, what you can add, all of these different things. So to protect you need to do that emotional bookkeeping in a sense. God, I'm stuttering today. I don't know what's wrong with me. But, what took the energy and what gave it to you. So hopefully everybody will download after they get off the episode, because this is the holiday season, right? And so, yes, it's for any time of your life. And I personally recommend doing a 7-day tracker once a month because each month holds something different. Sometimes it's a holiday, sometimes it's back to school, sometimes it's a crazy time at work, or just something in your life. And if you feel like things are getting out of control, it's time to do an audit and see what needs to be adjusted. So, for an example, an emotional drain might be worrying about someone's reaction to a text,
Mm.
but an emotional deposit could be a walk in the garden or just laughing and having fun with your kid. It doesn't have to be super grandiose. So, look for the overdraft alerts. Where did you say yes when you meant to say no? Where did you feel resentful or spread thin? Then you're going to check your return on emotional investment, right? Your REI was, we're going to rate it. Was it a drain? Was it neutral, or was it worth it? And so that's the kind of things you can expect on that checklist. So, what's something you've paid for emotionally that wasn't worth the cost, Sandra?
Yeah. So, um, I think anytime I hold on to emotional, any type of emotional reaction that is work related,
Mm,
I often feel like is a drain, because once again, it is not, this isn't my family. This isn't, and I care very much about my work and my integrity. So it's not that I'm saying, I just want to sail through things like that. But I think I want to make sure that I conserve, so that for the things that really need my emotional energy, I have that currency in my account to provide. So I think things like that. I think thinking about something that I've done that I cannot change, right? Like, there are times where I have made mistakes and I've apologized for it, or I've corrected it, but I keep saying it over and over and
Looping
over
in
of
your
like,
mind. Yeah.
yeah, the loop of like, you should have done better. You should have known better. Why was I such a bitch to this person when I didn't need to be, and it was just that I had my hormones raging and I was hungry.
You're ruminating like a goat.
I am. Bah. Or that's sheep.
Yeah.
See, girl,
Or
I'm
Jesus, we're goat
the city
sounding
girl
now.
in me,
Awesome.
girl. But
People.
yeah, I think about that, and I just, I just feel bad. And it's like I want to take that away and blah blah blah. So I there are things that I feel like I need to just be able to release and conserve that currency for something that really deserves it.
Hmm. I feel like for me, because I love being creative, right? I can come up with a ton of ideas of fun events to host and to create, but no one in my world, except for you, ever wants to do things like that.
Yeah.
Like, they want to show up to them. They don't want to produce them. They don't want to help with them. They don't want to implement them. And since I was wanting to see all my creative ideas come to fruition, I would always do the events and host all of these things with no help, right? Because that's me. I'm just like, gotta put my vision into real life with all of these things. And then I'm exhausted and then I'm not enjoying it the way I want to. And then I'm developing this standard for other people to always expect. Jen's going to always host. Jen's going to put the fun and creativity together. And even though they would never say that, most people wouldn't even admit to themselves that they feel that way. But it is a silent expectation when a holiday comes up. Well,
Mm,
let's wait and see,
mhm.
right? If Jen's hosting or, what she's doing, we're not going to plan anything because I'm sure
Yes.
Jen's going to plan something. And over the last, I don't know, I guess it's been a year about, I just haven't.
Yeah.
Like, I've always traditionally hosted New Year's Eve. I have always made it family friendly and I love it. And this year I was like, I don't
Mhm.
want to. I
Yeah.
don't want to stay up late. I don't want to host. And I do feel guilty in a sense because my kids love the tradition and they love, doing all those things. But I'm like, I just don't have it in me.
Mhm.
And so I just didn't. And I was okay with that. Did anybody message me and tell me I'm a horrible person for not hosting and how dare I ruin their New Year's Eve plans by not making something that they could go to? Not one, right? So they can manage whatever their silent expectations are in their own mind while I'm managing my emotional currency. And there is no relationship lost there. So this audit will obviously help us to see where we're giving emotional discounts or wavering in our boundaries. It's about noticing and not fixing everything at once. I had to do that even when I did did you ever do the Dave Ramsey Financial Peace University?
I read his book and I did some of his baby steps.
Okay.
So,
So
yeah.
you get it. Like, so in his concept is before you start implementing all that you've learned from his foundational concepts, you look back at the last 6 months of all of your spending to analyze it, right? And so after you've analyzed it and you see what it did look like, and then you also now look at the new foundational steps and you see what categories and how things should look like in that in between, when you're still doing the same things, at those moments you come to a crossroads and now you're looking at both angles. the way you used to handle it and the recommended path to handle it. And even though you might not do anything different at that very moment, you're observing it. And
Yes.
being aware of it is the first steps in general, and how to make those changes. And I'm doing that with health and everything.
Awesome.
What does emotional bankruptcy look like for you, Sandra? Emotional bankruptcy, is it like a burnout? Is it snapping at people? Is it a total withdrawal? Like, what does that look like for you?
Okay, bankruptcy, when I think of the word bankruptcy, it's like there's nothing else. There it's just everything is just depleted and gone. And for me, emotional bankruptcy is total withdrawal and total depression. Like in that space that I said to you earlier of just rotting in bed and almost feeling sick. That is bankruptcy to me because it is so opposed to who I naturally am. And there are times in my life that I was bankrupt. I was emotionally bankrupt and I just couldn't hold, handle, or approach. And I just felt like the only thing I could do was just conserve the little energy to make sure I was breathing and digesting my food and living
It's
because I
almost like
was
being
just,
in a coma, right?
oh my gosh, it was truly. And as I said, there are times in my life that I can reflect back now and say, yes, and I did it to myself. That is the thing, Jennifer. I did it to myself. I overextended. I overcared. I provided too much to others and not to myself. And then one day the universe said, well, I'm going to put you on your ass so that you can recover and learn from this. And that helped me with some of my conservation of my funds, right? I started, okay, maybe I shouldn't give so much here, or maybe I should care a little less, or maybe I should distance myself from this person. So, yes, so bankruptcy looks really, really dark for me. But I don't think I could ever be in that space again with where I am today.
Well, I think you also gave a good example of reflecting, analyzing as an audit versus going into victim mentality.
Mm-hmm.
These people did this to me, or my life is horrible and I just don't have any control over it. You know what I mean? There's that, which turns into rumination. And how do you get out of it? It's like those, those disgusting little spinny things. I think they're disgusting because they're on the playgrounds and they look like a little,
Yes.
like a bowl, and kids get in them and they spin so much that, I mean, your brains, your guts, your cells, they're all mixed up. And then when you get up, you can't stand up straight and you want to throw up. That's why I think they're disgusting, because I'm like, who wants to make themselves sick? That's what we're doing
Yes.
when you stay in that victim mentality. You're making yourself sick and you're not jumping off the swirly twirly thing. So
Mm-hmm.
don't even get on it, is my recommendation.
Absolutely.
Don't get on the swirly twirly. Well, let's build emotional wealth with boundaries. This is something that, Lord, I can't wait till we talk about in the next episode, because this boundary thing is just a whole new implemented concept for me. But boundaries are your emotional spend limits. They're kind of like your budget, right? They prevent bankruptcy. So think time limits. Only so much energy is spent on social things, or mental space. Stop overthinking and spiraling. Don't get on the swirly twirly. Saying no without over explaining or not responding instantly, right? So we want to have like this internal self talk when we're analyzing these things. We have to say, does this align with my energy budget today? So to build emotional wealth, we need to make deposits in our peace fund by resting, not necessarily rotting in bed, just resting.
Yes.
Journaling, spending time with aligned people, and creative time, mindfulness, breath work, nature, gardening. Sandra has been such an impactful mentor for me in that department of life, because she is go, 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 go. But I do watch her and she constantly is allotting rest and recovery time. She's, you know, analyzing these things and prioritizing really well. Another person in my life that is an excellent example is Ashton, my middle son, who's 18. You know, growing up, he would say something like, he has to know about things ahead of time. He doesn't like surprise things being thrown on him. He likes to know about it ahead of time. And a lot of people think like, okay, he's just a preparer or planner. No, he likes to get himself mentally ready so that he can allocate
Yes.
his energy for that, because then he balances out his whole schedule to allocate his energy levels for that activity.
Mm.
And it's so amazing, I think, to watch him, how he is so in tune with what he needs, even though it's a completely different pace than mine. And he calmly and confidently stands in his boundaries with that as well, too. And he has taught me so much just by parenting him, or maybe he's parenting me. I'm not sure. I'm not really sure. We already talked about the emotional discounts, right? But what's one place that you could set a new limit?
So I've had conversations with you, Jen, during our like personal chats, but I'm really trying to set limits with folks that are trying to be a friend but are not aligned with me. And I've said to you earlier in this episode of I give people the benefit of the doubt, and I give them that grace. And I really want to hone in. Not everyone is going to be, the ultimate energy depositor in my accounts, right? You have different levels of friendships, you have different levels of relationships with people. But I just don't want to spread myself so thin that I am not really honing in on those relationships that are feeding me. And maybe I'm not seeing, others because I'm just spread so thin. So I think that is a place where I can really be discerning, a little bit more discerning, and to create a little bit more boundary space just to make sure that I'm protecting myself and my currency.
I kind of had to look at it from the aspect of, if I'm spending money in this department, I don't have money to spend over here in the things that I want. And so I had to reallocate some funds
Hmm.
and go, okay, well, with this particular relationship, I don't necessarily have to give my energy in these forms. In this particular relationship, is there one aspect or interaction that I have with that person that does feel neutral or empowering and exciting and uplifting? And in some relationships, it was just a certain type of interaction. So I had to adjust my relationship with them to be just that type of interaction instead of all the ways. And that was a way to save money, in a sense, save energy. But some people I had to completely take off of the spreadsheet and say, you know what? I'm going to save those funds for something that I know is also investing in me. And it's not always easy to do, because a lot of people think like, if you have relationships that are super lengthy, that
Hmm.
you're required to maintain them just as hot and heavy as, like when it first started. And things change sometimes. And so whenever we talk about the friend shift, we can talk about that in a little bit more detail, but I had to really reallocate some of my energy bucks. But what's, Sandra, one small emotional deposit that you can make today for yourself that you'll, thank yourself for later?
I have to do this more because every time I do it, I always feel oh my God,
Infinitely.
infinitely, can't speak,
All right.
infinitely better. So when I'm feeling emotionally low, or I'm going into potentially overdraft status, it affects me on a daily basis, right? So because I just feel like I'm not getting poured into. So I do little practices in the day, and they're 5 minutes practices. So one is I do a 5 minute, I go on to, I have an app called Insight Timer, and I go into that app and I either do a pre-recorded guided meditation, or I'll just do they have gongs and different things. And when I'm feeling that way, like I told you how I was feeling this morning, and other times where I'm feeling that low, I do that and I feel like I napped for like 4 hours. I get up and I just feel something about that really pours into me. And maybe I just need the quiet, and I need, because my brain is always going and I'm always distracted and I have people asking me for things. And sometimes I just need that stillness. So that always helps me. And on those times of my life where I feel more depleted, doing it daily helps. And the second thing that I wanted to share is I bought a vibration plate. Sometimes the movement of the energy in that vibration plate, even if it's for a few minutes, 2, 3 minutes, helped me just ground myself. So I get off the plate and I just feel like, okay, I'm here. And I just, I feel all the energy kind of swirling in my body. It's almost like a sound bath, but a
Mhm.
physical sound bath, right? But you're getting shaken, really. So those things help to ground me so that I am not in that emotional space of poverty, right? And I don't want to be emotionally poor. I want to fill myself back in. So sometimes I have to do these practices so that I can help myself to receive.
Well, that's amazing. I'm definitely going to look into that app, the Insight Timer, you called it?
Yes.
Okay. And I do remember you talking about, you're like, I think you mentioned, you're like, oh, yeah, I did a small meditation and now I feel like I had 4 hours of sleep, which is amazing because that's how I feel when I go get acupuncture.
Yeah.
Because, I'll have my infrared heating pad on the table and I'm got all the needles and cups on me. And then I do fall asleep for that small bit, but I'm so recharged as if I had a whole night's sleep. But a 5-minute practice, I mean, you could do that anywhere. Even if you were, in your car on a lunch break or even on a road trip, you could just pull over for a second and recharge. So that's amazing. I'm going to look into that. And then the vibration plate, I have one too, and I don't nearly use it enough. But when you were talking about it, I kept seeing this. Imagine like a glass jar that's full of sand, but there's holes in the like pockets of holes in the sand that kind of look like Swiss cheese. And
Mhm.
when it's shaken, it all levels out. And then it's a solid foundation because there's not a gap in it. And so when you were talking about that, that's what I kept seeing was filling in the pockets of sand.
That's a great analogy of it because that's how it feels. It just feels like, wherever energy resides in my body, it just needs to kind of come together and work cohesively.
Yeah.
And I think the vibration plate forces that almost. And
Mm-hmm.
then you're just, oh, I'm on this earth and I'm here. Okay, what are we doing next? So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Wow. Well, Shifties, we're going to invite you to do a shift activation journal prompt. If you want to write them down now, or if you want to get them in the toolkit to download later, that's fine too. But on the shift activation today, it's what emotional spending feels worth it and what feels like a debt you keep paying. And what would it mean to set a new limit? Right. So, you are the only one who can balance your emotional checkbook. You do not need permission to protect your peace. Just practice. Your emotional energy isn't infinite, and you don't owe it to everyone. Every yes is a withdrawal, every no is a deposit into your peace fund. I have JOMO. Some people have FOMO. You know what JOMO is, right? Oh,
Yes, joy
yes.
of missing out.
Joy of missing out. When I heard that for the first time, I was like, that's it. That is what I have. I got so excited when I got to miss out on things. So, this week, we want you to become the kind of person who just notices where your energy goes. That's it. Just start noticing it, right? You can get the toolkit. It'll have your 7-day emotional spin tracker in there that you can download. And in the toolkit, I'm going to put in a couple really fun things on how to decline going out. There's a really funny video. I don't know if you've seen it where the ladies are like, I already took off my bra, and all these really funny ways to say, no, you're not going. And then I have some stuff on that I'll share about like quick boundary tips, right? And Sandra sent me this person on Instagram. I have to find it still. It's a lady who gives all of this amazing advice on ways to with like self-respect and kindness and vulnerability, how to simply hold your boundaries and say no to things, or to say yes to things, or to at least set a limit. I love her. Even though I can't remember who she is, I got to find her and I'll put it in the toolkit. So if today's episode sparked a new perspective or made you feel seen, we're so glad you're here. So take a moment to check in with yourself. See what's shifting for you right now. Your emotional currency is sacred, and you are here to learn how to spend it wisely. So show us some love, leave us a review, tell us what landed for you, tag us on your favorite socials with hashtag Shift Sisters Podcast. And remember, go download your episode toolkit to get your 7-day emotional spend tracker, and go sip something yummy. Take a deep breath and know you always have us to talk shift with.
And that's it for today's shift. Thank you so much for sharing this space with us. If you're loving the conversation, become a shifty. Like, follow, subscribe, and most of all, share this episode with someone who's shifting too, or someone who seriously needs to get their shift together.
Do you have thoughts, questions, topic requests, or maybe you're feeling the nudge to collaborate? Visit us at shiftsisterpodcast.com. We'd love to hear from you. We're so grateful for your presence, your friendship, and your willingness to do the work with us. Because shift happens and we're not meant to do it alone.
We'll meet you back here next time to breathe, reflect, and talk shift.